YouTube. On my channel, I've been doing, Madden gaming, but I think also going forward, I want to talk sports. I'm a huge baseball fan. I'm a huge football fan. We got the NFL season coming up. I'm so excited. And I'm also a huge Met fan. And I know the Mets, but, you got to stick by your team. You can't be a front runner. You got to stick by them and stick by them to the end. I just like to talk about the Mets, man. I don't always come in. I consider myself more a realistic Met fan. Like some people are like, oh, this and that and that and this. Like last year, I had no confidence they were going to do anything. There was just too many injuries, whatever. But I like to feel like I'm a more realistic Met fan. I don't sit here. I'm not crazy because I get it. A lot of people hate Met fans. They talk like they've won the last 10 World Series and stuff. I'm not going to be like that. I'm going to give my honest opinion. And right now, coming into this season, I felt pretty good. Obviously on paper, and I won't lie. I'm not a huge Lindor fan. They gave up like nothing in the trade. And I really liked Carrasco. And then also, I'm more fine with the trade. But probably the thing that bothered me the most is signing him before he played, like, an inning for the Mets. Because this is the thing. Is he Mike Trout? Is he Tatis? Is he big players like that? Acuna? No. So I'm a big component of coming to New York, whether it's the Mets or the Yankees. It's not easy to do. It's not. I don't care how good you are. And he wasn't that. To me, he's not that super elite player. He's probably like the next thing down, maybe even two down. And whatever, he didn't want to play until he signed. And then look, he signed a $300 million contract before playing a game, and he sucks. I'm hoping he turns it around. And I know, everyone's like, oh, he was playing better before he got hurt and all that stuff. Listen, was he hitting a little bit? Yeah, but, I mean, when you make that much money, you better be elite defense, hit 300, hit 30 home runs, score 100 runs, drive in at least 80. You need to be, elite or steal, 30 bases. So I expect a lot. Obviously, as a Met fan, he's here. There's nothing I could do about it. And again, like I just said before, it was an easy trade. They really didn't give up much. They gave up some prospects. I mean, you never know how that'll turn out. But I'm hoping he turns it around. But once they gave him all that money, I got worried. He didn't. Playing in New York is just different. And to me, he's not a $300+ million player. He's not that elite carrier team. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong. But again, like I said, he's out right now, hurt. Hopefully he could come back this year and contribute and play better like everyone says he was doing before. And obviously, was he playing better? Yeah, but when you're hitting under 200 to 210, and then you start hitting a little bit, and over your last 3 weeks, you're hitting 320. Obviously, there's only one way for him to go up, is up. So anyway, I move on to other things. Then next, I would probably say the Baez trade. Now, I know it already happened, so you could sit here and say, oh, well, you saw him play. I am not a huge Baez fan. I have him on my fantasy team, but fantasy obviously is different. He's been okay. But to give up a first-round pick last year that plays the outfield, and they desperately need outfielders like Conforto, which I'll talk a little bit later, is done. Dominic Smith is up and down. Last year, I feel, was a fluke, and he's not an outfielder. And then you have Nimmo, who obviously would be better for the corner outfielders, but he only has 2 home runs this year. So to put him in left and right field and maybe get 10 homers out of him, I don't know. That's tough. But I'm not saying that I want Nimmo gone. Nimmo, I want to stay. But back to the Baez trade, I just thought it was terrible because, excuse me while I have some water. Because to me, Baez didn't help this team. Like, yes, Lindor is down and they needed a shortstop, but I rather have went with VR and Guillorme, some kind of combination of that. I would have been fine with that. Then you keep your prospect, and because everyone's like, oh, when Lindor back, he'll go back to second base. Well, McNeil is our second base, and I tell you, I don't know what it is. Like, is McNeil Mike Trout? No, but he's one of my favorite players, and he's probably one of the few people I have confidence in at bat in a big spot. And I feel like ever since he had his breakout year, like, all they're trying to do is get rid of him. Like, they were going to trade him in the Cano trade, and then they brought Cano in, and it's like, yo, he's your second baseman. And now they're like, oh, we'll bring in Baez and then move McNeil to third. I don't know if anybody was watching last year. McNeil at third was awful defensively. Awful. And McNeil, who I do love and want him on the team, like, it would just be a disaster sending him to third. It just would. So I wasn't a big fan of the Baez trade. And also with Baez, I feel he's exactly what they have already. This is my opinion of the team. I love Alonso, but Alonso is what he is. He's pretty much a home run hitter. And then you look at the rest of the lineup, in McCann, in Conforto, in anybody else who plays, Pilar, or, you know, any of these other guys that bring off the bench, like a VR, they're like all or nothing. Like, they swing for the fences all the time. They're not clutch hitters. They don't put the bat on the ball. They don't come through in key situations. Like, sometimes all you need is a single, or sometimes you just need a sacrifice fly. Like, oh my God, so many times this year I've watched, like, every game besides maybe a handful here and there. Like, they've had the bases loaded or like two guys on all the time, and they can't even get a sacrifice fly. It's crazy. And to me, that's what Baez is. He's exactly the same. And yes, he had like a big home run. Okay, that's going to happen. Obviously, he's a power hitter, but I mean, like, but then on more than that one occasion, I seen him come up where they just needed a sacrifice fly or a single, and he's swinging to hit like a 10-run home run. And it's like, that's why I didn't want him. I feel like he's the same player that they already had. And personally, I don't know what it would have been to get him, but I would have went Chris Bryant over Baez, because I feel he's more an average hitter, more of a clutch hitter, former MVP, and you could put him everywhere. You could put him at third, which third is a problem. Like, I have seen enough about J.D. Davis. Like, everyone's like, oh, his hitting, can make up for his defense. Like, I know he's been hurt, but you better hit 30 home runs and 90 RBIs every year to have bad defense. So to me personally, I've seen enough of J.D. Davis. Like, get him out of here. I don't want to see him playing anymore. That's it. But Chris Bryant would have been perfect. Could have put him at third. You could have put him in the outfield. Because let's be honest, like Dominic Smith, I'm not a huge fan. I also feel like I've seen enough of Dominic Smith. Last year, I feel, was a fluke. There was a lot of guys that had really bad years in the COVID year, and then there's people that had elite years. And him and Conforto were two players that had elite years, and they didn't take the next step. But Smith is a little harder to give up on because he does have some clutch hits. So, I mean, it is tough. But, like, this team is just, like, driving me insane, and they're just free-falling. They're dropping like an anvil in this race. And this, too, like, I feel, and then I know this has already happened, so you can be saying I'm saying it after the fact or Monday Morning Quarterback. But look at the Phillies and the Braves. Like, they're killing it, and they both just leapfrog the Mets. Because what the Mets do, they brought in Baez. I don't even want to hear about Williams, the pitcher that they brought with Bias, because he went to the minor leagues. And yes, they brought in Rich Hill, and I was fine with that. But if you look at the Phillies, they brought in Gibson and Ian Kennedy to fix their two problems. What was they could hit, and they had a good 1-2 starter, and their bullpen was shaky. Now they went out and got Ian Kennedy, who's, he's not Mariano Rivera, but he's solid and makes the back of the bullpen solid. Now they have Gibson slide into the third, so now they have a good 1-2-3. Great offense, and if Kennedy just is solid with Archie Bradley and Nearest and all these guys in, kind of, now that Kennedy's in the back end, they kind of slide down into 7th and 8th inning, and some guys are made better for that. Their team is nasty. And let me just tell you, Zach Wheeler should be the Cy Young Award winner. It might go to Walker Buehler, but, man, did the Mets make a mistake letting him go. Me, I wasn't sure if they should keep him. I was kind of on the fence because, he got hurt a lot. And, he would have good second halves the last 2 years. But, and clearly he took an even bigger step forward. He's a way better pitcher than he was for the Mets with the Phillies, so he's even improved even more. But he would have been nice to have last year and this year. He's 100% healthy. He's not making $200, $300 million contract. Looks like they should have signed him. What are you going to do? But the Phillies, I think the Phillies are the team to beat. And then you have the Braves. What did the Braves do? Yeah, they didn't do anything crazy, but they at least made some moves. What were they having problems with? They're hitting. And they went out and got Soler and the other guy, Duvall from the Marlins, who, yeah, they're not elite players, but they needed it. And then they went out and got Rich Rodriguez from the Pirates. Who, in my opinion, is a great reliever. I'm actually surprised they're not using him in the 9th inning. And I think they should switch him to the 9th inning because I think Will Smith had a blown save, and then yesterday he let a couple people on, and Rodriguez hasn't given up anything since being a Brave. But that's elite, man. Like, they just made their bullpen better, and they made their hitting better. And I just think the Mets are the third best team. I know there's injuries, but everybody has injuries. The Braves don't have Acuna Jr., who's arguably a top 5 player in the league. And yes, the Mets don't have DeGrom, which I don't know. Speaking of DeGrom, I don't know what's up with that. I mean, he's in and out all year long. I mean, I'm worried, and I don't even know if he's going to pitch the rest of the year. Because what I heard the other day is he's not even doing anything. Like, he is in complete shutdown mode, and it's already, almost the middle of August. So sometimes it might be worth it to not even bring him back and just let him rest and go for the future to next year or whatever. But that's a huge, huge loss. And so the Mets are in trouble, in my opinion. And if you think about this, in the beginning, yes, we're in first place, but they never ran away. But the issue is the reason they were is because their offense. Well, the reason they didn't run away with it is because of their offense. Because in the beginning of the year, their rotation and their bullpen carried them. But if they had a halfway decent offense, like they're almost last in the league in scoring runs, they would have separated from the other two. And now the pitching is not as good. DeGrom is hurt. Taijuan Walker, I mean, he hasn't thrown a lot of innings in years past, but he's not the same pitcher. Stroman, who I'm not a fan of, he has pitched well, but to me, he's a 5-inning pitcher, and more of late, he's a 5-inning pitcher. Like, in the beginning of the season, he did some 6, 7, and even 8th inning. Like, lately, he's basically like a 5-inning pitcher. Like, when I see them do the 7-inning doubleheaders, I'm like, oh, Stroman's pitching? Maybe he could throw a complete game, and he should, because the thing with Stroman is he pounds his chest like he's an ace. Well, you know what? To me, he's a 3-starter. And then obviously, then the rest of the pitching got bad with Eichhoff. Hopefully never see him again. And then the bullpen. Seth Lugo is not the same. So I don't know if the surgery, he's just, not going to be the same. Like, I know they had a pretty good reliever back in the day, a few years back, Bobby Parnell. I think he had Tommy John. He was never the same. Or does Seth Lugo need another year and he'll be good next year? But he's not the same. Diaz, I hated the trade from the start. Moreover, because I didn't want Cano, and exactly what happened to Cano, I knew was going to happen. Like when I talked to my friend, and he's a Yankee fan, so he's like, "Oh, it's a great," and it wasn't about the Kelenic. Like, obviously they gave up their best prospect, but they also dumped a lot of salaries. But to me, a closer isn't worth a top prospect. And then also with the Cano, the thing with him is he's older, and he takes up a bunch of money like he's an elite player, like he's a Trout or a Tatis, and he's not. And clearly last year he was halfway decent because of PEDs. But I also told my friend when the trade happens, one more suspension, and he's gone for the year. Like, he already had other suspensions, so it was just too risky. But I have seen enough of Diaz. My opinion, I think they should have traded him after last year. Last year he played better. He pitched better because why? Because there was no fans. I think with Diaz, it's in his head. Like, I really, really do. I feel like it's in his head, and he's just not made for New York. And last year, they should have traded him off the big bounce back, and he's okay this year. And obviously, I never want to see him in a non-save situation. And I know he's back there, and they've had starting pitching issues, but now they have Hill, and Carrasco's come back now, so hopefully they won't have to. But he should never pitch anything but a safe situation. I don't know why, but he can't do it, so why even deal with it? But in my opinion, as a Met fan, I've seen enough of Diaz, and I don't want him. I don't want him anymore, and I think they should trade him. And then the rest of the bullpen, Aaron Loup has been amazing. And to me, he should be the eighth inning guy. I'm not a baseball manager. I was awful at baseball growing up, but I watch a lot of games. I don't know the numbers either, how he is against righties, but he 100% should be the eighth inning guy. No questions asked. And when Diaz isn't available, he should be the freaking closer. He should come in and close the games. So he's been elite. 1 year they paid him nothing, and I know relievers change from year to year, but I would bring him back next year. Then you go on the Trevor May, the big free agency. He's up and down. He's mediocre, and he got a lot of money to be like an eighth inning shutout guy, possibly close here and there, and I don't see it. He's a solid reliever, but he's up and down. And then the rest of the bullpen, is whatever. Familia, I've seen enough of Familia. I love the signing when they did it. To come in the eighth for before Diaz, and I was terribly wrong. He was horrible the first year. Last year was a little bit better, and this year he's a little bit better, but thank God this is the last year. I've seen enough of him. He just walks too many people. and so the point, I kind of rambled on there, but the point I was making is all those things that were elite on the Mets are not elite anymore, like the rotation, because of injuries with DeGrom, and Stroman has taken a step back, and so has Walker, and Carrasco is only on his third start, and of course he got suspended, so he's still not built up strength, and Rich Hill is a 5-inning pitcher, and the bullpen is just not good anymore. It was really good in the beginning of the season, and the hitting has still been terrible. So that is the reason. And you know what? I don't see any turnarounds with the offense. And this is my opinion. People could say whatever they want. With Conforto, I don't want him back next year. He's done. I don't want to see it. I've been hearing him that he's breaking out forever. And you know what? He's been okay. Like, is someone going to get, like, you want to give him as a Met fan, like, a $100 million contract? $150 million? No, thank you. I'll spend the money somewhere else. And also, I'm on Conforto. He should not be playing every day. Like, put Pilar in there. Give Drury a chance. Like, Drury is not the end-all be-all, but Conforto should not be starting every day. Like, I was so upset when I turned on the game last night and he was in right field. And he's also not even hitting, like, eighth. Like, he's hitting in the middle of the lineup. And listen, if you want to sit there and try to get him going, that's fine. Then put him in the two-hole. Put him in front of Alonso. Put him in front of somebody that's going to make a difference. But to me, he just doesn't have it this year, whether he's hurt or he's choking because of the contract year. But I don't want to see him anymore. You know, you could put him in there every once in a while, but 100% he should not be starting against left-handers. That's it. Because he is an automatic out, and I cringe to see him up there. And yeah, some people would be like, oh, he just hit a home run the other day. They were down 5-0 in the ninth inning. No momentum, no pressure. It wasn't even the Phillies' closer, or eighth inning or seventh inning. It was just probably their long reliever that they need to get some work, and they were up by 5. And that was it. That wasn't impressive to me. So him I've seen enough, and I want him gone. Baez, I've seen enough. And listen, I hope he goes on an absolute tear the rest of the year. He's hurt right now, of course, which he has been in and out of the lineup all year when he was with the Cubs. I don't want him either. Like, I don't want to hear this stuff like, oh, he wants to play next to Lindor. I don't care. I don't need another $300 million, good player. Like, to me, McNeil is a second baseman. That's it. Baez, they traded for you. They gave up. I don't know how good that prospect is going to be. Nobody does, but they give up their first-round pick for last year for 2 months of you, and already you've been terrible. Had a 5 strikeout game, and now you're hurt. So, I mean, is it going to... I just don't want to see him. That's my opinion. You could get someone better for $200 million. And don't give me this stuff. People are like, oh, he'll take less money to play Lex Lindor. He's not worth it. He's not. He's just not. So, Conforto, Baez. And now I probably go on to Rojas, the manager. I had no problem. I didn't know much about him when they hired him. Let me take some water. But to me, personally, I've seen enough of Rojas. Like, I heard on some baseball shows, they're like, oh, he should be in the running for manager of the year because of the injuries he dealt with. Listen, he did not do anything special. It was the manager, the general managers, president, maybe Sandy Alderson, then bought their bench is elite and probably the best bench, in my opinion, in the major leagues. They did an outstanding job with their bench. So when all these guys got hurt, you had some real major leaguers, former, 150 game starting players like Pilar and VR and Peraza. So they weren't like, no-name people. But I've watched a lot of games, and I just feel like Rojas is like his decisions. Like, he takes out like Stroman with like 60 pitches thrown in games. And yesterday I turned on the game, and I couldn't believe that Conforto was in the game. Like, he loves Conforto. And then when the team was healthy with J.D. Davis back and Guillorme was still there, he kept playing VR like every day. Like, give the guy a rest, man. And I just don't like the moves he does. And another move where he brings Baez is a non-save situation. I'm not a manager. I don't know what's going on and everything. But it's easy for me to see. You can't, unless it's an extreme emergency, you can't use him in a non-save situation. So, yeah, I like Rojas as a person. He seems okay. His interviews are fine. Seems like the players like him, but I just feel like he makes strange decisions. Like, I really feel he pulls his starters too early, way too early. That's just my opinion. And I'm more of, hey man, players play. Like, yes, he dealt with injuries, but they played well because of their elite bench. So when they lost Nimmo and Conforto and J.D. Davis and Lindor, they put elite people in there, like elite bench players that could start on other teams. VR, Polar. Like, I'm a big Guillorme fan. Like, some people don't like him, and I know he had like one RBI forever, but he gets on base, 400 on base percentage. He's elite glove man. And that goes back to the Baez thing. And unfortunately, Guillorme's hurt now. But I would have rather went VR and Guillorme rotation at short than bring in Baez, in my opinion, because I don't feel Baez helped the team like he didn't, in my opinion. So I'm just saying, they get rid of Rojas managers or whatever. I also feel 2 years ago they should have brought Girardi in. I'm a fan of Girardi. I think he's going to win the division with the Phillies, but they gave this guy a shot. But I just feel like, and I feel like he just makes bad moves, and he's not. And another thing I forgot to talk about with him, I do not want to see Castro anymore out of the bullpen in any kind of close game. And I know he started off right. He's got an elite arm. I've just seen enough of him. And Rojas loves him, always brings him in a tie game or down one or up one. I don't want to see that anymore. Hey, you want to mix him in every once in a while, that's fine. But it's like every time, here comes Miguel Castro. Here comes Castro. And it's just like, what does it take for you to not bring that guy into the game? It's just crazy to me. I know he had a good start to the season. He's got an elite arm and stuff like that. But once you see him just giving up runs left and right and walking people, take a little break from him. But I see him every day in there, every day. And another thing about Rojas I don't like either, and I don't know if it's just him or it's the front office agreeing with it too, do not use Aaron Loop as a starter and as an opener ever again. Because, yes, he did an amazing job when he did it, but he is your best reliever, hands down. And then, I see him when he did it. I think he did it twice this year. Later in the game, it's like, man, they're struggling right now. They could really use an elite reliever, and they just used their best reliever. I just don't get it. But I don't know. But again, I'm sitting here. I was terrible at baseball. I don't know much, but that's my opinion. I forgot to say, if you like the video and you want to hear more about the Mets or other baseball teams, I'm still going to play some Madden. I'm probably going to talk about some football soon. I'm a big Bears fan. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe. And I think I feel much better now talking about the Mets, but I feel they're in huge amount of trouble. The Phillies and Braves have so much momentum. The only thing good that the Mets have going for them, even though yesterday right off the bat, I'm like, all right, playing the Nationals, boom, down 3-0. You have one thing with Carrasco is come in and get the first two guys. How can you sit there and let Soto come up, the only guy on the team that's worth anything, and you put two guys on in front of them, boom, throw a home run. But anyway, the one thing they have going for them is they only have 3 games left against the Phillies and the Braves, who I feel are better teams now overall. But they have 10 games against the Nationals and 10 against the Marlins. Obviously, the Marlins just swept them, but at least they're the worst teams. They need to beat up on them. The Nats, since they did a fire sale and got rid of everybody, I think they're 7-8. They've won one game. You need to sweep these guys. You need to sweep them. And unfortunately, today is going to be a doubleheader. It's very hard to sweep a doubleheader. I don't know. The Mets worry me, and I don't see anybody breaking out of this hitting slump. I like Nimmo. Nimmo gets on base. He's one guy I have confidence up there. I think McNeil is fine, and I think Alonso is fine. Alonso is what he is. Alonso is going to be a guy that hits 250 to 270. He's going to hit 28 to 35 home runs. That 50 home runs, I don't think he's going to do that again. And he's going to drive in 90 to 100 runs. I think he's fine. So those 3 guys are fine. The rest of them, Dominic Smith is up and down. You feel like Dominic Smith is, back in it, and he's got some momentum, and then he just does some terrible things. And he only has 11 home runs. and he hasn't been hurt all year. He's been in there all the time. And that was always the fear I read about him as a prospect. And as we saw over the last couple of years he's been there, he doesn't have that much power. So I think he has 11 home runs. So if you're only going to hit, maybe he'll hit 20 this year, 22, you better drive in 100 runs. Or not even just 100 runs, because the one thing with RBIs is, excuse me, I want to take some water, some hydration. Because our RBIs is, who's in front of you and they're hitting, but he better hit 300. So bottom line is those three hitters that I mentioned are the only ones I feel that are good going forward. The rest, it's just terrible. And I have zero confidence in any of it. And I tell you this about Alonso. I don't know. I'm not a hitting coach. I'm not a good hitter, but he's got to figure something out about that up and inside pitch that he just cannot hit. And they're calling it when he tries to take it, it's always called a strike, and he can't hit it because that's what they just do most of the time. And definitely when there's runners on and he comes up, they just pound him in there, and he's striking out all the time. So as of right now, McNeil and Nimmo are the only people I want up and with runners in scoring position. Obviously, Nimmo's not an RBI guy, but he makes contact. Like, at least him and McNeil make contact. Like, the other day, when I think it was bases loaded, no outs, Baez comes up, strikes out. Conforto comes up, strikes out. And I think Dom Smith hits a fly ball. So if Baez or Conforto just put the ball in play, whether it's a double play or a sacrifice fly, you would at least got one run. Like, I'm sick of seeing these strikeouts. And I know it's all throughout the league and stuff like that, but that's the problem with the Mets. They have, like, almost all their hitters are strikeout hitters. They have, like, no contact guys. The only two contact guys are McNeil and Nimmo. So I think that's going to wrap up the video. I just wanted to talk about the Mets, and I think I'm going to keep talking about the Mets. We got 2 months left in the season. I'll talk about other baseball too. Again, I feel as a Met fan, I think it's the Phillies' division to lose. I think the ball is in their court. They have an ace in Wheeler. They have a number 2 in Nola, who's actually having a down year. So if he was having a normal year, oh my God, that'd be a crazy 1-2 punch. Gibson, I'm not a fan of, and I didn't want him on the Mets, but he's been solid this year, and he's only a number 3. They have the offense with Segura, who just, I think he's taken a step this year, that he's even better hitter. And Harper, obviously, is a good player. And Hoskins hits bombs. And the bullpen, I think they solidified it with Kennedy. Is he Mariano Rivera or Craig Kimbrell? No. But I think he's enough to be solid in the 9th inning, then allow everybody else to just drop down. And then the Braves, I never thought there's 2 things. Actually, there's probably 3 things in sports. I'm more of a baseball fan and a football fan, so I can't speak so much to the other sports, but there's 3 things I don't doubt. I never doubt the Yankees, who, as everyone saw, has completely turned it around with their deadline deals. I never doubt the Braves, and I never doubt the New England Patriots. When people say these 3 teams are out early, I don't believe it until I see it at the end of the year. So, again, the Mets are in some serious trouble. I mean, if you can't hit, there's not much you can do. I just feel the Mets don't have... Like, if you go to the Phillies, their hitting is great. Their hitting has really turned around. It's great. And their starting rotation now with Gibson is elite. And they moved Ranger Suarez, who I feel they should have kept in the bullpen when he was elite. But if he keeps that going in the rotation, that's 4 great starters for them. And then they get Eflin back, who'll be the 5th starter. And the Braves, I feel now that they got Rich Rodriguez, they have a really good bullpen. And their run differential was already the highest. I think it was like 50 plus 50 runs in the NL East. They were number 1. And now they got decent offense to add to Riley, who's having a breakout year, Albies and Freeman. They brought in Soler is like rejuvenated in the Braves uniform. And Duvall is, yeah, he's a more feast or famine hitter, but he's like their fifth option. So they at least have some things where I feel the Mets in the beginning of the season, their bullpen was elite and their rotation was elite, and now it's not anymore. Neither of those are, and they haven't hit at all. All right, so that'll probably wrap up the video for now. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, hit the like and subscribe button. Comment down below what you think. See you guys later. Be safe.